Friends, today we're talking about the 41st gift, and today we're talking about the portion of Pinchas. Pinchas is the name of an individual, and our topic for today, our gift for today, is the way that we perceive a zealot. And a zealot is a radical individual that has radical actions. He's an extremist, and today we're going to explore the gift of being extreme, being an individualist in your own right. We'll start with John Stuart Mill on liberty, and there we're going to quote from him. He says, "Strong urges is not just a nickname is a nickname for being very courageous, and they have a lot of desire. If you have a lot of energy in yourself, you can use it for doing bad, or alternatively, you can produce from it something good. Rather have an individual that has a lot of energy than an individual that is very lazy." And the person is very sensitive. He has a lot of moral sensitivity, and he has a lot of strong inclinations towards doing something. He has urges, is something that you can channel towards love, towards justice, towards being righteous. And more than that, if society knows how to breed these type of people and not to push them away, this is the material, this is the substance that great heroes are made out of. In this essay about individualism by John Stuart Mill, he, not directly, but he actually talks about, if you notice carefully, he talks about the image of the zealot, the image of the radical and the extreme individual. A person that takes and talks about any topic in the world with a sense that he doesn't care about, and with laziness, and with this has nothing to do with me, this individual, nothing good is going to come out of it. Okay, he is, as we call it in Hebrew, parv. He's not here and not there. When a person is passionate about something, he's trying to bring across a message. This is the material that heroes are made out of. And we know that in all the history, breakthroughs, science, advancement, enlightenment is caused not by people that are zero, not people that are par, that are not here and not there, but they're made out of people that are leaders, that are extremists, that are radical. A person that goes against the stream is usually a lonely person. He is extreme in his measures, and he has an urge, he has a feeling in his heart that wherever people tell him not to go, that's exactly where he's going to go. And in a path that no one is walking, he is going to be the first one to walk. He doesn't need cheering, he doesn't need clapping. He usually is in solitude in his own room, and he's thinking usually out of the box. The radical threatens the concrete and usual patterns of thinking of society. And when a little bit of his works comes out and breaks through, then it's a real threat on society, who usually causes him to pay, either by being ostracized or sometimes to pay with his life. Examples, we have many. Galileo Galilei in the 15th century, yes, the earth is going to revolve around the sun. He found himself in being in an asylum, or being confined to his house and being ridiculed by the church. We have the famous case of a very interesting woman, Mary Wollstonecraft, who was the pioneer of the women's civil rights movement in the 18th century. She wrote many books. She was a radical in her opinions. Her books didn't see light and were not redeemed until the 19th century, but yes, definitely she was a pioneer. We know the case about Gutenberg, Johann Gutenberg, who created the press and the printing, which was one of the biggest revolutions in man's history. And Johann Gutenberg took a radical and extreme financial risk against all the odds, which by the way left him with no penny in the end of his days. But these people, these are the people that advancements and radicalism and enlightenment comes from. Yes, you can think that you can't print anything, or the women will always stay where they are, or to always think that the sun revolves around the sun revolves around the earth, because everybody told you so. It takes one individual to change it all, and he needs to be a zealot. He needs to be a radical individual. He needs to be a person that's extreme, because with no extremism, he can't go anywhere. And more figures come to mind. Obviously, you know Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Albert Einstein. All these individuals were radical. But John Stuart Mill says something else. He says you have to be very passionate, but also with a strong conscience. Yes, you can be an extremist, but an extremist with no conscience turns into the three biggest tyrants of the 20th century, which killed 120 million people. So is extremism bad or good? In its core, it's something that we need in this world. We just need to know how to channel it. And the fact that tyrants come out of it, we shouldn't be afraid of that. We need those individuals in this world, but we need to embrace them into society and to channel them in the right direction. How is this all connected to our portion? Individual by the name of Pinchas. He's a zealot, and the Torah calls him Kanai. Kanai is an extremist, is a radical individual, that he's extreme in his deep appreciation for morals, ethics, and values, and to God. And this individual sees something very, very harsh. He sees that the entire Jewish people in the desert are dealing with promiscuity, dealing with sexual activities that are not correct, and they're doing it with the daughters of Moab, and the whole society is going downhill. Even the head of the tribe of Simeon, Shimon, takes the princess of Midian and has intercourse with her in front of all the people. What does Moses do? Moses is in shock. He's paralyzed. He's crying outside of the tent. No one knows what to do. Here is the head figure, the prince or the head of the tribe of Simeon. He's doing this action. What are we going to do about it? We have a whole public here. We have a whole crowd. No one is doing anything. Pinchas is radical. He takes a spear or a dagger and he kills them both at once. We're not advising here for people to go kill people. We're talking about the method, not the method, we're talking about the concept itself. And the concept is being a radical. And a radical by the name of Pinchas gets a blessing in this week's portion. That's what it says. God spoke to Moses saying, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron, the great priest. Actually, he is the one that removed my anger from the people of Israel when he was radical regarding my commandments. And I did not exterminate the people of Israel. That's why I give him a blessing, the blessing of peace. How is peace connected to this concept? Peace does not mean compromise. Peace means here to be wholesome, from the word shalem. We discussed this in the past. Shalem, shlemut, means wholesomeness. Okay? And wholesomeness means that your action sits well with you because you know it's the right thing to do. And Pinchas has a treaty with God, and God tells him, all your descendants are going to be zealots. All your descendants are going to be extremists. They're going to go against the stream. And that's what happens with the priests in all the generations. The priests are the ones that taught the people of Israel, warned them against being immoral. In the time of the Second Temple, in the middle of the Second Temple period, when the Greeks conquered the earth, it was the priests that drove them away from the land of Israel. In the end of the Second Temple, it was the priests, although some of them were corrupt. But in the end, a lot of them ran away to the mountains and they fought with the Romans. Didn't end up so good, but that's what happens. The priests always take a part in the extreme measures of the people of Israel. Joshua, when he sends spies to Jericho, One of the spies is his best friend Caleb, who was with him in the first mission, which failed. Second mission, to discover the land of Israel, he chooses two, Caleb and Pinchas, because Pinchas is the extremist. He's the one that can join Caleb and actually see what's going on in the land of Israel, and he's doomed not to fail. Because the first time was a failure, the second time he takes two special individuals, one that proved himself and one that proved himself in another area. Pinchas is mentioned elsewhere in the Bible, and wherever it's mentioned Pinchas, there's an interesting concept. He's mentioned stretched out throughout the generations. Actually, we see the name Pinchas throughout 500 years or so. And what I'm claiming is that Pinchas is not only individual, but it's a name for being a radical, and we see him in many stories. The last story that we're going to talk about today is in the book of Kings, Kings 1, chapter 19, and what it says there is that Pinchas, according to the rabbinic scriptures, Pinchas is Elijah, and Elijah goes in a very radical way against the false prophets, and God tells him as follows: yes, you won this war. Yes, you exterminated all the false prophets. But you should know that in leadership, in the mainstream leadership, a zealot, an extremist, a radical cannot lead. He can arouse our attention towards a certain aspect, towards a certain concept, but he cannot lead. This is not the main highway that we should go upon. And therefore, leading the people has to be not with great sound, not with great fire, but quietly, step by step. It takes a process to lead people. A zealot is good for a once off, but it cannot be as a way, because if it is a way of ruling, it turns into tyranny that we spoke about. That's what happened in the 20th century. So we summarize everything that we said today. We're talking today about the figure or the concept of being a radical. And we showed that it is necessary that we have radicals in our generation in order to go against the stream, in order that we should have enlightenment, that we should have progress, that we should have new and fresh ideas. And this has to be a small percentage of our conduct, of our people. But in general, this is not a way to lead, because if there's too much extremism, it turns into tyranny. So this is our session today about extremism, individualism, and a radical human being. His name is Pinchas.